Good evening, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the BBC, the Boardwalk Broadcasting Company. Today, it is basically just myself and the wonderful Kit is actually with us. She's here in text chat tonight and is on a laptop from, I think, from a bar where her girlfriend is trying out for auditions for a band. So she is not quite able to be here in video, but definitely able to be here in person in the chat. And
sounds like I'm in the wrong place. Huh?
We'll be monitoring. Yeah, sounds like both of us are in the wrong place here. So we've got a number of topics that we wanted to touch on tonight. We haven't had anything that's cropped up from Soulbound Studios that I think has been kind of like, earth-shattering, but I think there are just so many things that are kind of like ready to drop, that are going to kind of like re-engage the community again. We seem to go through these cycles of where something, there's an awesome event or something happening, be it map voting, server selection, the Searing Plague, or the recent, Longest Night event, and people kind of like come back awake in the community, stoked and go, and then it, that's over and done with hibernation until the next kind of thing. And this is a typical normal expected cycle in a community, in a pre-production game kind of thing, because there is basically just myself and Noz here tonight. We certainly are welcoming questions and input from the audience. I had technical problems with my camera tonight, so I've just got my head bouncing GIF in there. Thank you, Noz, for putting that up yet. So I'll be able to actually read the chat as opposed to not being able to when I have that mask on and everything. So I should be able to answer, questions and have a discussion kind of like live with you guys here today,
In all fairness, it doesn't look much different when you're on camera, though, D.
This is true. Alrighty. And yes, Nightshade, this is live now. Okay. So the first thing that I guess that we would chat as a topic tonight is domain and settlement selection. And please, as I'm chatting, feel free to go ahead and answer questions or ask questions in the chat, and I'll try and get through to them as we're talking. Before, kind of like, I guess it's like a preemptive on the domain and settlement selection. I had a number of people message me. It's often the case they somehow, perhaps not wrongly, come to the conclusion that being a monarch, that we have some kind of like secret back door into Soulbound Studios, and know everything that's going on, and are chatting with the devs on a daily basis. Heck, sometimes we don't chat with them. People chat with them more in Discord than we do on a private basis, and typically it's only just us doing a oh hey, was this going to be happening, or is our understanding of this correct, rather than any kind of like in deep discussions. Hey Mick, dude, good to see you, mate. Hi Aldrich. So people were coming to me and asking, wow, D, Caspian has mentioned in Discord that domain and settlement selection should be happening at the end of January to mid-February. I personally do not think that this is going to be happening that soon. And my reason for this is that for domain and settlement selection to start, we need to have title transfers and package transfers taken place. And given that we're already at the end of January, and that in my opinion, title and package transfers will probably be open, I would imagine, for a minimum of 2 weeks, and we haven't heard, oh, that's coming out next week kind of thing, I see that domain and settlement selection wouldn't occur until the, late February at the earliest, so to speak. So I think we still have some time on that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, D, you don't think they'll give a week's notice and say you have a 48-hour window to do any transfers you want to do?
I don't think that they would do it for such a short period of time, given that there is so much importance. There are duchy packages that are going to be transferred, etc., etc. I think that 48 hours is too short of a window in case some people are on vacation or away, or whatever the case might be. I definitely think that a 2-week window is probably a minimum on that. When how much time did they give Mick? Dude, you might know the answer to this one because you're in tune with that. How much time did we have for account merging? I think we had like a full month for that, right? And I view this as a somewhat similar scenario. But but 2 weeks I would expect as a minimum. So there were some threads on the forums about how's everybody going to be doing domain and settlement selection, etc. And so that I remind people, it is set up by SBS that the domain and settlement selection is done by IP, which is your influence points, which is directly tied in to how much you have paid, how much you've donated towards the project and bringing COE to reality. And I think that this is obviously definitely going to hold true for the kingdoms in terms of obviously what order we choose in. I don't know how it is on the other servers, but we have at least a tentative agreement amongst the monarchs on NA East as to which kingdoms go where. And currently, that is that Vornir will be picking kingdoms 1 and 2 up in the north. Those are the Brudvir and Hrothi, and the Hrothi and Neren kingdoms. Alicia would be picking kingdom 3. Fortuna will be going kingdom 4. Bordwall kingdom 5. And Kairos will be in kingdom 6. And so, although obviously we're picking in order, we've pretty much all agreed as to where we're going to go, and that if somebody breaks that, then then the other monarchs aren't exactly going to be pleased with that situation. What consequences will come from that, we don't know. We would have to see, how practical that would be once game starts, but we'll see.
And, so I don't mean to interrupt, but Mick made a very good point. It is possible that they can start domain and settlement selection halfway through that time, or even concurrently. So that's a very valid point. So they could start transfers at the same time the monarchs are starting domain and settlement selection, and run both concurrently. So while you have counts and dukes and whatnot that are waiting for their turn in line for domain and settlement selection, they can be transferring their titles and getting their stuff ready for when it is actually their turn to make their selections.
Yeah, I think that Mick Duke has a valid point on that. I would think that they might stagger it, like they might start domain and settlement selection or title transfers, let's say, start week 1, and if title transfers are to last, let's say, 3 weeks, that they could feasibly start domain and settlement selection like at the start of week 2 or the week 3. I don't think they would start. I think that they would have to give at least a week before to allow the dukes, those people that are getting duke packages, transferred, because the dukes will be selecting in week 2. And by this, what I mean is, I don't think it's NDA. I think it's fairly common knowledge now, and Caspian has mentioned it in the Discord. But basically, domain and settlement selection is going to last around about 4 weeks. And the first week will be the monarchs, and each monarch will basically have a 24-hour window of time based upon their IP in which they can choose. And this means that on our server on NA East, which I'm the most familiar with, Adam would get the first rightfully get the first window of time to make his choice. That would open up. He would have those first 24 hours, and and then after that, it's speculated. Nobody knows whose IP is where anymore, but it's speculated that I'll be making the second choice. And theoretically, if Adam hadn't placed his kingdom, during the first 24 hours, not that we would, but it would be possible for us to place, wherever we wanted to on any kingdom that's open. What is happening for kingdom selection is that as a monarch, you don't get just to choose your kingdom first, but when you're choosing your kingdom, you also have to pick your duchy. And within that duchy, you have to pick your county. And within that county, you have to pick the settlement. And it isn't until you pick the settlement and say, yes, this is what I want, that it retroactively fills in the county, the duchy, and the kingdom. So it says here, Pock asks, do you think they'll have a live list of the order in which people can pick? No, I don't believe that they will have. I don't think there'll be a live list at all. I think there's a reason why they took the IP list down on the forums, and to have a live list would basically go counter to that. So I think that what's going to happen is that you will have, if you guys remember how we had surname selection, and that was based upon IP as well, that what they did is basically you could log in and you could see if you were available yet, or it told you, hey, you still have 24 hours, or it'll be available in a week's time or something like that. So I think that's how that will happen. So Noz, if you can put up map 1 on the stream right now for us, please. I think it's safe to say that the majority of the kingdoms on NA East have already chosen as to where their duchies are going to be going. The dukes have gotten together and said, yes, I want to go on this one, or, I want to take this one. This is our setup currently for our kingdom of Boardwall. And what we are doing is if you can put up map 2 now, Noz, what we're also doing is just like the dukes have kind of like discussed amongst themselves where they're going, we've also held these kind of exercises for our counts. And given that Boardwall consists of quite a number of duchies, we've labeled, these are, and I want to stress, these are totally speculative county lines. Each duchy has been divided into 24 counties. This isn't the only exercise we'll be holding on this one.
These aren't actual backdoor county lines that you've gotten due to your top secret access to Caspian?
That's right. They're me kind of like with a couple of beers inside me going, oh wow, hey, this line would look good here, this would make a good county here, kind of thing. And now if you can put up map 3, did I draw a butterfly there? No. Maybe somebody interprets one as a butterfly. But then what we've been doing is we've been having our counts take a look at the map, and kind of like, based upon, where they want to go and what their goals are, etc. They're kind of like, we have a real-time board where you can see there are like little comments and everything where people make comments. Oh, no, I would like this county as well. And then those two counts kind of like sort it out between themselves and have a discussion. And we've basically streamed our counts into 3 categories. We call them the PvP counts, those counties that are primarily going to be focused on PvP and naturally would be placed either along a border with a neighboring kingdom, or they would be placed along the coast, particularly in our case facing the north, where possible kind of like, seaborne raids and invasions might be coming from. Then we have what we call the support counts. And to make it clear, our PvP counts get to choose theirs first, because the security of the kingdom is obviously paramount. That is our first and foremost concern. Then what we have is we have the support counts, and the support counts are basically like a hybrid of PvP and PvE. And they place kind of like right behind the PvP counts and can kind of like, offer their troops or their members to go and, put out any hotspot PvPs or any raids or anything else that needs help with. And they will protect in kind of like the PvE counts, who, although they'll still have some PvP players in there to kind of like get rid of, local bandits and thieves and everything, generally speaking, won't have much of a military other than a militia that might be needed or called upon in times of war. And so what we've been able to do is be able to get counts who kind of like really get along well with each other, kind of like settle next to each other, and where two counts have kind of like had let's say a disagreement, and it has sometimes led to an argument when both of them want the same and believe that each should have a particular county, to where this has been resolved ahead of time, because philosophy is we know that there'll be conflict about this. And so what we're doing is kind of like trying to get the arguments out of the way and the reasons as to why a choice would be made one way or the other taken care of. Telland has asked a good question there in the chat as to, all this planning is great, but how do you plan on dealing with rogue counts who haven't been in these discussions? Basically, to be quite honest with you, they will be, as soon as possible, war will be declared upon them. And I hate for that to come over and sound dickish kind of thing, but a rogue count who is placing his package and hasn't had the courtesy to even approach the Duke that they're going to be, within whose duchy they're going to be placing, basically falls into several different categories, don't they? They're either
stupid,
kind of like, either stupid, or they're hostile, or they don't care. And at what point, kind of like as a community, do we say, oh wow, this rogue count came in and he took the best county in the duchy, but he hasn't done anything towards building, the community, or helping the community, or supporting the community, etc. They will they'll basically, have to be taken care of, and those lands reverted back to who they were originally intended for.
I'm going to take the full force of the duchy straight to their house on day one and say thank you for your contribution. Now get going.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for your donation, buddy. And, that saying, I think that there are duchies that won't mind having a rogue count. There are some duchies that are very underpopulated with counts, probably, if you look at the entire kingdom. I don't think that Bornair has that issue. We're pretty much taken care of here in Boardwall, but I don't know how many counts, for example, there are in Kairos or Fortuna. Elysia comes with 145 counts right from the get-go from the Free Kingdom event, and they'll have many, many other counts that'll be joining them, period. But so an underpopulated duchy might not view it as a hostile thing. In fact, they might welcome and embrace them with open arms and say, "Hey, welcome aboard. Let's see what we can do together." But it would be the same, like, what happens if a rogue duke was to place in the kingdom and displace one of our dukes, and they can't get in. It's kind of, do so at your own risk kind of thing. For me, although I'm sure it's going to happen, I personally, I guess just my thought process is I can't envision somebody spending that much on a package, and certainly if they've brought in mayors and if they've brought in, barons and a community and everything, that they would just blindly place inside somebody else's territory without even having the courtesy of a little discord of, oh, hey, we looked at the map, we saw what's happening, and this would be a great place. What do you think,
I think common sense is going to dictate. I mean, yes, it's going to happen. Probably not as much, but mayors are going to be dependent upon randoms placing in their settlement. They're going to welcome it, right? And they're going to hope that they join not just their settlement, but also their community, and they get involved in what they're trying to do, and they're hoping that these randoms are going to support their initiatives and their focus. But if not, if they're counter to that, then they're a threat and they're going to have to be dealt with. So I think on in some sense, even on a duchy or a county level, we're going to get randoms that we'd never heard of, and they may be coming in, like was mentioned by Mick here, just on a naive basis. Common sense would tell you that each situation is going to, be handled differently. And we may get some new awesome members that way. Who knows? We may get some awesome domains that way. And my phone's blowing up now. But obviously, if they're going to, subscribe to our ideals and get involved in what we're doing, then, we're not going to burn them on day one. We're going to have to handle each of those occasions individually as they come up. But it's not going to be highly recommended that you come in and disrupt domain selection for actual domains of counts and dukes and so on and so forth. That's a great way to piss off 1,000+ member community, pointed spears straight your direction on day one. It wouldn't be recommended.
Yeah, and I think to kind of like to piggyback on that, I don't hold naivety as an excuse. It's, to me, it's definitely, if somebody wants to have a position of leadership and responsibility and management, which account has, to just come in blindly and say, "Oh, hey, I didn't know." To me, it at least in our duchy, that's not going to be an excuse. You don't naively come in and cherry pick the best counties and say, "Oh, hey lads, I'm here." It means it's somebody who hasn't been in touch with the game, hasn't been in touch with the communities. And do we really want somebody like that, sitting in a prime? Let's say they took one of the most strategic counties on a border. I don't want that in the hands of somebody who is neither considerate, etc. So let me go back and see a couple of these other questions.
But on the flip side, if they were to choose settlement or a county down in the swamp that no one else wanted, and it was going to be taken by an NPC anyway, I might not run down there right away with pitchforks, is what I'm getting at.
Exactly. I mean, there are areas where they can place and nobody's going to say anything. But if you take a prime strategic county that we believe is crucial to our defenses, etc., it's going to make a difference. I think Barleyman had asked about whether we place we do place a tremendous amount of stress on the on seafaring. I mean, let's face it, the seafaring, I think, is going to play a very, very important part in the game, in terms of not just from a military standpoint, but from trading. So you're going to need to protect your seafaring trade lanes as well. You're going to need to protect your coastline from just from the random groups of like 2-3 longships or warships landing and doing raids and plundering and then leaving. So we have we have the best part of an entire duchy and its resources dedicated to developing kind of like our naval, not forces, but not just military ones, but trading ones as well.
So we've had quite a few questions. Barleyman, you covered that one. Pock said, since counts and mayors have gotten to know a lot of their higher ups, Count or Duke, what is the overall plan when a Duke or Count takes a duchy county that doesn't have enough slots for everyone who has pledged loyalty through the Dance of Dynasties so far?
Again, I think we've kind of like covered most of that, in the discussion that we just had. It has to be looked upon as a case-by-case basis. If you place somewhere where it's underpopulated and there aren't enough counts to start with, you're probably going to be welcomed and everything's going to be fine. If you take a prime strategic point, it's going to be more than just frowned upon.
So I've got 9 mayors under me, and I've got 4 counties, so I should be good for the protectorate duchy. But what if I only have settlements after I pick my mega super city or whatever? What if I only have enough settlements for 8, and I've got a ninth mayor that has pledged I can't talk. Loyalty to me for the last 2 years and gotten to know me and wants to place in one of my counties, but I have to say no. You have to go place over in Bornes County over here, and so are we just going to? I think that's the gist of his question there. What are we going to do in those fringe cases where we don't have places for people that have been involved in our communities?
Yep, it's going to be a tough one. I mean, I know that that we have counts who don't have multiple counties, and they've got like 8, 9, 10 mayors, and you're not going to be able to fit all of those in a county. Thankfully for us, what we've done in the Duchy of Blood Oak is we have, let me backtrack a little bit. People have to understand that Chronicles of Illyria is first and foremost is a game about conflict. It's designed to be conflict right from the get-go. And by this, I'm not meaning necessarily the very obvious, it's kingdom against kingdom, but it's been designed. It's a game of haves and have-nots. Not everybody will have the same resources or the same number of resources or the same number of NPCs. And it's pitched so that Duchy will be fighting against Duchy, or at least in competition. That's a better way for me to phrase it. So will the counties. I mean, heck, even the mayors within a county who have all been good friends and buddy, in the discords and everything like that up until now, when they choose their settlement and their settlement isn't as attractive as their best friend who's next door, and the NPCs are getting siphoned off and going over to their buddies' settlement, that's going to probably cause some kind of conflict as well, And so we're trying to not overpopulate our counties per se. Each of the counts in Blood Oak should be able to take hopefully 1 and potentially and possibly 2 NPC duchies, so they'll have enough room to grow and expand and have enough resources so that they're not having to to go and rape and pillage in their county next door, which is also a county of Blood Oak. So we're trying to mitigate that as much as possible proactively ahead of time, but we're just going to see how it plays out once the game actually starts on that.
Do we have any planned punishments for counts or dukes who attempt and fail coups? I think the game's going to punish them.
The game's going to punish them, and I think also it's going to be a situational thing, isn't it? I mean, if it's kind of like a group or a band of people who've just decided, for shits and giggles, they want to overthrow a coup and are kind of like just being disruptive to the community, they're going to be punished, and where as much as the game allows, they're going to be taken out and kind of like neutralized. But what if there's a count that ends up being completely asinine, and it's the count that's being the the disruptive one? Each of these cases is going to be, have to be taken individually, and the punishments it can run to being exiled, but again, how do we enforce that in game? Through contracts. I think we need to know more about the game mechanics on those kinds of things. Let's are there any other questions that we have? Because we're already kind of like, burned up half an hour on this. Are there any other questions that we might have quickly recalling regarding domain and settlement selection that I can answer for you guys, at least as far as I know to my ability.
So is it going to be at the end of January? That's what everybody asked, dude.
I'm thinking it's going to be mid to late February, at the earliest.
Plans to split up duchies, yeah. So Blood Oak is a pretty massive group within Boardwall. They have 4 duchies, and COE has said that they're not going to allow anyone to have more than 3. So we must have some creative plans in mind in order to pull off that 4.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. We do have the plans to kind of split up the duchies. Again, this has been agreed upon between the existing dukes as to who's going to kind of like be taking what and why, and the lines for the duchies will be modified and redrawn during the first set of sim. And, both Caspian and Snipe Hunter have made it clear that that is possible as long as everybody is in agreement. And obviously we expect, the Dukes and the Counts and everything on a pre-agreed agreement that there isn't going to be an issue with that.
I'm just ready for transfers to happen. That's something we've been waiting on for a year. Something that Caspian was working on the code for a year ago, getting us all hyped up. Oh, I'm going to work on the code for it, giving us the impression that it's coming out like next month or something, So this has been a long time coming. There's a lot of people that have been waiting for transfers of titles to come out so that, they can solidify their domains and their communities and their plans and what they're, wanting to build. So this is, I hate that, they waited until the absolute last possible minute to make it happen, but I have no doubt that they're going to run it all the way down to the wire to the 11th hour. So.
Indeed, and Monk's Terror was asked, are the maps seen earlier the assured borders of the duchy, or are these only theoretical for now? The lines for the duchies are the ones that SBS has drawn in. So I can't guarantee that SBS won't switch them around or something at the last moment, but SBS has assured us that those are the duchies, but the county lines that you saw there, Monk's Terror, at least within the Duchy of Blood, are purely speculative. All righty.
Yeah, we just completely made those up to argue over for no reason.
Yeah. So the Duchy lines that you see on the map are from SBS. The county lines are just for me. All right. So let us move on here right now because we're going to start running short of time here. In fact, we're not going to get everything in that we had wanted to. Let's get to a couple of the controversial topics that had been in the forums here, the past week or two. And the first one that I want to address is kind of like, the one that I've had a lot of people messaging me over the past week about Adam and his nomination as ambassador. And I've been following the forum thread about it, and I purposely stayed away from making any discussions or any comments or anything like that in that forum post. My own vote on that was to not have Adam as an ambassador, and I'll explain my reasons why, because the voting is now closed. So anything that I have to say here right now does not affect whether Adam will become an ambassador or not. When the ambassador program was first introduced, many of us as monarchs were put forward as ambassadors, and I did not want to be an ambassador. It is my belief that we hold too much influence and there's too much of a conflict of interest for a duke. Potentially you could even take this down to a count level, but for me, definitely for counts, for dukes and monarchs. Now, I know that there are dukes and monarchs that are ambassadors and are doing a great job. Do not get me wrong, but I still my opinion has not changed on that. That it shouldn't have been opened up to us in the first place, because the temptation, the possibility, the scenario for potential abuse already exists there. And why I voted against Adam wasn't out of any kind of like personal kind of thing, or because he's a rival monarch here on NA East, or a competitive monarch. It's basically because, again, it's, Adam stated that, he can very, very clearly draw the line between kind of like serving COE and serving his community. But my experience has been is that no, he can't, or at least he hasn't in the past, and that's what I have to go on. And I go with that with the very first PAX East event for Conquest of Illyria, and Soulbound Studios was actually getting a little bit overwhelmed in their booth, and they asked the existing members of the COE community to help with the registration process, to register up new people. And what happened is basically Vornair people got a hold of those kind of like computers and everything. I volunteered to help is the best way to put it. I don't want to kind of like over dramatize it, but basically what was happening when people were registering just for news and information about COE, etc., they were asked to choose which kingdom. And instead of, they were asked to choose which kingdom and the people from Vornair, and Adam sanctioned this and actually defends it, is that they were basically pressuring people to join Vornair. Pick the Vornair one. Pick the Vornair one. Well, I don't want to pick the Vornair one. What's this other kingdom about? No, you don't want to worry about them. You pick Vornair. Pick Vornair. And so this, for me, is kind of like, these were almost like the first ambassadors, right? This was the SBS devs asking members of the community to help them out with newcomers to the scenario. And Adam's response to that was, hey, we were playing within the spirit of the game. We were trying to get as many people to register as possible for our community and win. And you know what? I don't even think that that's a wrong attitude for Adam to have. That's a good competitive attitude to have. He's doing what is right for his kingdom. But in doing so, it isn't what's necessarily right for the rest of the community. And Angus, you might not have been asked to pick a kingdom when you signed up. I can guarantee you that I have 3 counts that joined me that particular weekend because they were so put off by the pressure of being asked to join the other kingdom, What's that? Perhaps I'm being asked to clarify what's that, Kit? If I don't answer what in stream.
What about those of us who are part of the group that recently joined you guys? What about those of us who got a mayor package before we join you guys? Will we be given a chance if land is available? And the answer is absolutely yes. The point that we were making earlier was if you come in unannounced after and during domain and settlement selection, and you interrupt that process from our community that's been building over the last 2-3 years, you're going to be considered hostile and you're going to be considered a threat. Any package that you purchased prior to joining our community recently, there's if you're accepted into the community now or the day before domain settlement selection, it doesn't matter. You're part of the family. You're part of the process. So
exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely welcome without any problem whatsoever. And yeah, and I think Mick Dude makes a good point there. It's used, and so for me, Adam is an incredibly smart. He's very smart. There are a few people that know more about COE than Adam, and I think that has to be, he has to be given kudos and props for that. I think he's done an amazing job putting his community together. I think he does stuff that helps the COE community in general. I'm just saying that there has been definite proof in the situation where when he could help COE and SBS while at the same time benefiting and profiting it for his own community, he has also done and exhibited that. And that's that kind of like that's that gray line of separation of conflict of interest that I don't want to see happening.
Yeah, and so when the ambassador group first was created, there were people in the Discord that were helping people, that were constantly answering questions. And oh, by the way, they weren't saying, "Hey, come check out Boardwall now that I've helped you," you know. And they were just there helping people every day in and day out, answering people's questions. And they were very knowledgeable about the game. They were completely unbiased. They weren't trying to mass recruit people into their settlement or their barony or their county. They're just honestly, genuinely there to help people and help answer people's questions and point them to the areas on the forums where they can go and look for different communities if that's what they're looking for. We've gone a long way from that. We have a lot of ambassadors that are using it for a glitter, a piece of sparkle on their collar. You know what I'm saying? They're not using it for the right reasons, as was mentioned earlier in the chat here. You know, they're using it for their own personal agenda. They're actually out campaigning to get people to vote for them in this stupid fucking system. They need to fix the shit's what they need to do, or they need to wrap it up and close it all together, because it's serving no purpose for me. The same people that are being helpful in the official COE Discord are doing what they've always done. But then you got these other turds that ain't doing shit. They're just sitting around with pretty colors on their names. They need to get rid of this shit altogether, in my opinion.
So tell us how you really feel.
No, I mean, and so anybody that comes up and says, I accept this nomination, I'll be completely impartial all the time and never mention my fucking kingdom or my duchy. If you're a king and you're a duke, you're known for your community. There's no way you can be impartial. So I agree with you, D, 100%. They have no business being there. There's... dukes and kings are ambassadors of COE anyway. Fuck, they've dropped thousands of dollars on the game. They're, bringing in hundreds and hundreds of people into their community for the game. They're ambassadors already. They don't need a fucking green tag.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. Again, particularly as dukes and as monarchs, part of our goal is branding. We are branding our particular communities, and we're in competition with the other community to get those people that are looking at playing, on the NAE server. And that doesn't matter, again, whether you're Fortuna or Kairos, Elysia, Vulnera, or Boardwall. But just the potential for kind of like, even if it's unintentional, it's like, oh, hey, and who are you? Oh, well, I happen to be one of the monarchs. Oh, well, let's chat a little bit more,
I'll even go on record, D. I'll even go on record and saying the whole COE community side of the house, the ambassadors, all that shit is in need of some serious help. I'm no longer moderator Noslam or super mod Noslam, because every time I brought issues, I had monarchs from other servers, I had dukes from other kingdoms would bring issues to me, and every time I would bring them up, I was bitching for Boardwall. I was bringing up another Boardwall issue. The fucking, the bullshit going on behind the scenes. They were pointing the finger at me as if I'm biased. This isn't even a Boardwall issue, So they forced me to be a player, and I told them, anytime you choose me to be a player or a mod, I'll choose a player 9 times, 10 out of 10. And 11 times out of 10 on Sunday. I'll choose fucking player every time. So by them accusing me of only bringing Boardwall issues to the table when the entire community was bringing issues to me, they just didn't want to hear. And I get it. They didn't have the bandwidth to deal with the shit. But on the same token, they need to clean up some shit. And I think ambassadors is a good place to start.
Yeah, and I agree with that. How to phrase this? It wouldn't be breaking NDA for me to explain the situation without giving the details. There was, regarding the title transfer, there was a discussion that Caspian invited the people in the exclusive 10K channel to participate in. And he asked for our feedback, and we gave that feedback to him. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense, and we agreed upon some numbers, or at least tentatively. It wasn't kind of like locked or anything down. I don't want to be giving the wrong impression." And Caspian said that he went away from that still not feeling quite okay. So it wasn't that he was in agreement necessarily what was happening, but he then stated that he went to the ambassadors and talked with them, and then based upon the chat that he had with the ambassadors, he kind of like finalized the numbers, which actually, for us at least in Boardwall, were not advantageous. And that happens. That's okay. We get that. Not a problem. But then if you have a situation where you have a monarch that's a competitive monarch on our server that would have been a member of that group, it wouldn't sit well, And it's not even that Adam might have actually voted or had said stuff in support of us, but we wouldn't know that. It's the perception, right? It's the potential, it's the possibility. And I just don't think that Soulbound Studios should be putting themselves or individuals in that position,
I'm not going into details. I mean, obviously, I've been behind the scenes for 2 years now. I know the silly shit, but I'm not a part of it anymore. I wish them all the best. I can't be a part of it anymore. I have for too long forsaken my own community and put my time and energy into supporting COE as a whole, the entire community. And I'm watching all these others. Some people are talking about them in chat now, become ambassadors and use that for their own community. I never did that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was always focused on COE as a whole, but now I'm not. Now I'm going to focus on the Protectorate. I'm going to focus on my county, and making us awesome, and put all that energy towards that, because all the things that I've been, asking them to take a look at, is falling on deaf ears. But I hope they figure it out.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I want to also add before kind of like we leave, because we're actually a little bit over our regular 45 minutes, is that it was alluded to by Adam that there was a community, and it didn't take any figuring out to know that the community that he was alluding to was Boardwall, is that we were systematically downvoting him, and that it was all a game of politics, etc. Yeah. I want to categorically go on the record as stating that I did not discuss this with our kingdom. I did not discuss with our leaders, either in voice chat or text chat or anything, or ask them to do so in any manner to downvote Adam by any means whatsoever. I mean, I think that it's a community thing. There was I think within one of our duchies asked their members to downvote him, but I'm sure that Adam had some of his duchies asked members in their duchy to upvote him.
No. No, we had a couple of fucking people that decided they want to be social justice warriors or whatever got up their ass, and now all of a sudden the entire community of Boardwall is on this wild coalition. No, Adam, come on, knock that shit off. That was politics. That's all that was. He said what he had to say, to win whether he won the vote or not, and that's to put us in a that disappointed the fuck out of me. I ain't gonna lie. I mean,
playing the victim was was a little bit of a drama queen thing.
Yeah, that disappointed me so bad. I mean, you point a finger at an entire 1,000-member community, and I mentioned it in the forums. It's sad that we're painting an entire community with this broad brush because of a couple of people, literally a couple of people. That didn't come from us. I didn't vote one way or the other. I don't agree with the entire program. So, but if I did see someone that was in the COE Discord that, was not trying to make a name for themselves or had not already made a name for themselves, and they were just genuinely helping people every day for the last 6 months, I would say, hell yeah, yeah. They're very knowledgeable. They're very helpful. They're not tooting their own horn. They're not saying, look at my shit, look at my shit. That's an ambassador material right there. Give them a shot, Anybody else? Yep. No, I'm not going to vote for you one way or the other.
And I have to agree with you, Greybeard, on your comment there. The game is what's happening now with all the drama. I mean, holy crap! I mean, I've been gaming since, I'm 60 years old. I've been gaming, on a daily basis, basically since 97, 98, when I started with Ultima Online. And I've been a member of quite a number of like pre-launch communities. And yeah, there's sometimes been a little bit of drama here, a little bit of drama there. But holy crap, it's a weird thing, because the forums on at least the official COE forums are kind of like so relatively clean and everything like that. But people are involved, people are engaged. But the amount of drama that goes on in the Discords, holy crap. I mean, it's unbelievable. Even with all my experience of pre-launch communities, I would never have fucking imagined for one moment that it would be this involved and this detailed. I mean, we had situations that were happening, whether it was the Searing Plague or map voting, etc., where I'd wake up and I'm an early riser, but I'd wake up at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, and my Discord messages were slammed. I'd like have 15, 20 different conversations already waiting to be answered and engaged in. And it would go until 11 o'clock at night. And it was like, holy crap, I just spent 16 fucking hours dealing with the dance of Discords today, and it was crazy stuff. Absolute crazy shit.
And the same token goes, D, if you were to say something that was obviously anyone with a lick of fucking sense knows you're talking about the entire community of Fortuna or Alicia or I don't give a shit. If you're brushing a broad scope brush across an entire community, shining a negative light on them because of a couple of people, I would call you out on it too. I would tell you that's kind of fucked up, I mean, that was the biggest disappointing thing there for me. It's unnecessary. Knock it off.
Yeah. And yeah, Angus, I agree with you. The Searing Plague, it was very time consuming for many of us as leaders, but it really did bring a lot of the communities together. I think, from that point of view, it was a successful event, on for some of us personally, it was like, holy crap, it was again, just very, very, very time consuming and intense. But, the game is going to be so as well. It's the fact that people were kind of like playing it more on a web and kind of like, doing the link trading, and it was so involved. It was pretty amazing.
I mean, there was some lore that was decided by the Searing Plague, but the whole purpose of it was to keep the community engaged. And on that aspect, it was wildly successful, even more so than they anticipated. The whole purpose of the whole damn thing was to keep people engaged and keep people logging in every day, finding out what's happening, and it was a huge success. Now, how it was played and what was won, and I mean, we can argue about that, but the whole purpose of it was community engagement, and on that front, it was a huge success.
Yeah, I mean, Mick says the TSP really wasn't that fun. I don't think the TSP itself was fun or anything like that. I think that the engagement within our communities was I think for the most part very, very positive.
I was bored out of my freaking mind, but
with the game itself, yes,
it kept other people logging in every day. Which, to me, I got to talk to a lot more people about stuff that we're planning on doing a lot more often, which I haven't heard from some of those people since. But yeah, it served its purpose, if you understood what its purpose was.
Yep. Well, we had still so much more to talk about today. I wanted to show you guys how the website's coming along and the interactive. Let me try post to you guys a link here that you can look at once the thing is over.
It's up while you're jabbering. It's up.
There, that's a link to our scriptorium that we're starting to populate right now. There's a link there for Noz is quickly going to be showing a little bit of our website that's being developed. We've done a soft launch on this. We're still debugging it and everything like that. There's actually going to be an interactive map on it. We're also going to have a database of all the dev quotes both in Discord and on the forums, and it's a searchable database. ETA on the site is POC. We hope to do a hard launch on March the 7th, which is the second anniversary of our second anniversary of Boardwall. So
yeah, the duchies and counties and the numbers on there is not all filled out yet. It's still a work in progress, but it's looking good.
Yeah, it's, you'll be able to access the that interactive bookshelf that I showed you. That'll be accessible through the website. The interactive map will be, and that map you'll be able to zoom in on a kingdom, duchy, county, and settlement level, and get information about each, and what resources they're looking for, or what they're not looking for, what they're looking at exporting, what they have an excess of, what professions they're looking for, what professions they're not looking for, what the taxes are, what the local laws are, etc., etc. And that's it's pretty awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being so engaged and active in the chat. Brilliant show, and brilliant interacting with you. We're now approaching the 1 hour time limit, and that's definitely when I want to pull the plug on that. So thanks all.
Now I see why you had me come. Yeah, now I see why you had me come on the show tonight, because you dropped that controversial shit. I'm good at the controversial shit.
Maybe we'll need to do more of the controversial shit in the future then.
I'm good at stirring up shit.
Alrighty. I don't think, before I go, is there anybody's question that wasn't answered just before we sign off? Please don't post a new question, but if I missed your question in the scroll, it wasn't because I was ignoring it.
Oh, we're filtered ourselves. There ain't no damn filter on my mouth. I promise you. Ain't no filter. I'm not as big a dick as people like to think I am, but there's no filter. We're not filtered.
Angus, what was your question about the NPC duchy, Angus? Sorry. I can't scroll back to find it.
We have an NPC duchy. Will it continue?
There are plans for it. We have several scenarios, and I can't give too much away. We have one duke that is in another kingdom at the moment and part of their circle. So, it's being reserved, so to speak. And the other one is it has plans to be divided amongst the neighboring duchies. Particularly by Ceruleum, which started off as a double and was potentially going to be a triple duchy, and so had a lot of counties, and so they're very jammed with counts. And so the same thing, that we're doing in Blood Oak, where we don't want these counts kind of like basically in competition and conflict with each other. We want to ease the pressure on Ceruleum, where through no fault of their own, they've now found themselves where they're kind of like they have 24 counts in a duchy, and to me that's going to be so. We need to try and relieve some of that pressure off of them. All right, everybody, thank you so much for attending, and we shall see you not next week, but in 2 weeks' time. Take care, everybody.
Yep, take care.